Time with me, Tom Grody, and I have a special guest this morning, Roger Kapes. Hi, Roger.
Hey, good morning, Tom.
Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I appreciate it. Roger has agreed to share his kind of values that drive him, his superpower, and just a little bit about Roger. Roger is a retired high school teacher, taught through the pandemic, so lots of war stories there. Uh, Married to Kelly DeChant, big advocate in our LGBTQ community. We're lucky that Roger's with us and every day. And from Mentor, Ohio, been down here in Columbus for 30 years. So, Roger, thanks for joining me this morning. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to you and have you go ahead and share your values and superpower with us, my friend.
Oh, I'd love to. Can you expand that one slide?
You got it. I'm working on it.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, here we go. All right. Well, let's do this. All right. There you go, Roger.
All righty. Well, my number one concern is the environment. When I was up in Cleveland, I worked for a company in Solon, Ohio, and I was their cost improvement manager. And I got big into solar and wind. Consequently, it was very expensive to do either one of those. And I'm not going to tell you what year that was. Then once I moved down here, I have occasionally checked it out. Last year, we bought a new house, so I really dove into the solar. And I looked at a company out of California. They use the Generac system. And I looked at the Tesla system. And I sort of was interested more in the Generac system. But that changed when a new company came on board out of Louisiana called SunPro. They use the Envision system, which really blows Generac out of the water for its efficiency. And the basic difference between Tesla and Generac and Envision is Tesla works on the DC side of the circuit. The other two work on the AC side of the circuit. Everybody says, so what? Well, if you know anything about charging your battery on your cell phone, it's real simple. What happens there in the Tesla system, as it starts to come down in voltage, the battery being utilized, it immediately recharges. Comes up to 100%, great, starts discharging, starts charging, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You keep doing that to your cell phone and your battery will go dead eventually, okay? The other two systems, the Generac and the Envision, work on the AC side. It has to come down to a specific level, and I think it's 15% of battery life, and then it starts to recharge again. So that's my whole thing about the environment. Will I have a zero footprint? No, we have natural gas and city water, and I do use recycling when City of Columbus comes around to actually pick it up. Number two, diversity. Wow. I've always had lingering thoughts in the back of my mind growing up. Why can't everyone just love one another and get along? Never could figure that out, why there always had to be an us and a them. When I came down to Columbus, I moved down here a year before my family did. This is my second wife. And I started hanging out with a bunch of people and started going to the nightclubs. And I thought, wow, these are really nice people. They're friendly. Okay. And one thing led to another. With the downturn of the economy in 2009 and having sold my mortgage business up in Westerville, it just totally destroyed my marriage. I had a wife that liked to spend it before I got it because she knew what was coming down the pipeline. And then another fellow named Bernie Madoff completely took my pension fund and destroyed it. So I looked around and said, well, I have a college degree. I guess I'll try substituting teaching. It'll give me a little income, and see where that goes. Well, that led into academia, and I've been a high school teacher. But I do like to play euchre on Thursday nights over at South Bend Tavern. I don't know that that's restarted yet. I sent a message. They haven't answered it yet. And let's see, number 3, making a difference. Oh, yes, definitely. Black Lives Matters. Last August, I went to the Black Lives Parade. I understand you and your husband, Tom, were there.
We were.
You took the girls, or that you left them home?
We took the girls.
You took the girls. Well, you got a lot closer to the Lincoln Memorial than I ever did. Okay. We got lost on the subway system. So by the time we got there, it was pretty filled up almost to the Washington Monument. We got into the crowd a little bit. And I thought that it was the temperature was in the high 90s. And I said, wow, we got to go. We got to get out of here. So, yeah, we make there. Kelly had made a nice sign. Her employer wouldn't let her off that day. And so a friend of mine and I drove to Washington, D.C. the night before. We made it as far as Morgantown. Spent the night, and then in the morning we actually sped a little bit towards Washington, D.C. Patience. Well, teacher, if you don't have patience, and I was working with students on credit recovery, you got to have it. In the state of Ohio, most people do not realize this, but you can be 22 years old and still go to high school, free of charge. There is a new program that rolled out in the last year and a half called 22 Plus, where you can be over the age of 22 and still get a high school diploma. So why is that important? It's important because it's okay to have a GED, but that just means you're good at taking a test. It does not really indicate that you know your subject matter. If you have to sit in a class or go online and do classwork, you have to have some control of time management and logistics. So there is a big difference between a diploma and a GED. Proactive. Yeah. You either be reactive up until the age of 35. Yeah, that was me. I was in the military and I was very reactive. That's typical military. You either lead, follow, or get out of the way. That doesn't work too well in civilian life. I was in Armed Forces Military Police for 10 years and drug enforcement. I can tell you horror stories about going to a ship at 2 o'clock in the morning and holding a .45 revolver at the watch on the quarterdeck with a letter from the admiral saying, give this man his full cooperation, while my 20 Marines, I was in the Navy, went down throughout the ship and arrested people. Wow. I mean, let's think about it. Do you want somebody with their finger on a nuclear weapon that's taking crack cocaine? Okay. My students always ask me one question: how come you never became a civilian police officer? Or did you? I said, well, I worked for the Mentor Police Department as a radio dispatcher when I first got out of the military, and I made up my mind real quick. I didn't want to be a police officer. And there's one real reason. You have to read them their rights. In the military, you have no rights. I can deal with that. It's yes, sir, was the only correct answer. So now that I've retired again from teaching, it's my third time, I've reactivated my mortgage broker's license. I'm with Nexa Mortgage. They're out of Arizona. They're the largest mortgage brokerage company in the United States with over 1,200 loan officers. And I'm with a local branch here of Nexa called Raglan Group. And there's basically the manager and myself. So I guess that makes me the senior mortgage loan officer. We're handling conventional FHA, VA, and I have a 1.75 30-year fixed mortgage now, so I love it. my wife, in her infinite wisdom at the closing, said, "Hey, you know, if we pay extra on this, we could get rid of this mortgage." I said, "What are you, crazy? That's the last thing I'm going to put an extra penny on. You look at that 24% credit card a year. That's where the money's going to go." So that's what I'm doing.
Nice. Thank you, Rod. Thank you for sharing all that. I really, boy, cool to learn about the solar, Roger. That was fascinating. And very few people actually commit to putting solar in their homes, but very neat that you've done that. That is really cool. Thank you for sharing all that. Definitely appreciate it. I wish you all the luck in the world with your new mortgage brokerage business. Yeah, that's great.
Well, anybody interested in getting a reverse mortgage, I have a fellow worker that told me, she's a widow, and she says, "I got to get out of this business. It's driving me crazy." And I said, "Yeah, but besides that, you know, you got June, July, and August off paid." She goes, "Yeah, that is kind of nice." But she's to the point now that she's using her credit cards to help pay her mortgage. And I said, "You're drowning." She says, "Well, maybe I should refinance." I said, "No, that's the wrong way to go."
Right.
I said, "You have to pay that back." So she says, "What do you suggest?" I said, "A reverse mortgage, and let me tell you why."
Nice.
One, do you talk to your kids? She goes, "Well, yeah." Okay, then they need to be in the loop. If not, it's a little easier on my end. So she's getting ready to close.
Very good. Very good. Well, listen, I just want to say thank you for being such a big advocate and ally for the LGBTQ community, of course. Thank you for all your time teaching these kids. That's a big deal. I know it's tough stuff, but thank you for that. Really appreciate all that. Thanks for leaning into your values, your superpower. Thanks for sharing today, my friend. I really appreciate it. And I wish you all the best with this shift back into the mortgage brokerage business.
Oh, thank you, Tom.
All right. All right. Now remember, even when it's really damn cloudy out, the sun is always shining, my friend, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.